You're listening to the Future Tech Health Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Until I reached age 40, I never realized the obvious, that we all have medical issues, or we at least have a family member or close relation that had, has, or will have them in the future. Medicine and biological systems are the final frontier. Until we've conquered death, figured out how life began, cured cancer, and understood our purpose in the universe, there's a heck of a lot to talk about when it comes to our health. Future Tech Health means I'll be covering futuristic topics that are actually already in clinical trials, or even starting to appear on shelves or by prescription, or available for your own use. We dive deep into stem cells, CRISPR-Cas9, the science of sleep, epigenetics, medical testing, cancer, ketogenic diets, stem cells, aging, regenerative medicine, and more. My goal for you, the listener, is to learn from these podcasts. You may very well learn something that may change the course of your life for the better, steer you towards a new career, or give you insight into addressing a serious medical problem. Remember, however, this podcast and its content is informational in nature only. No medical, tax, legal, financial, or psychological advice is being given. If you enjoyed the podcast, please listen, subscribe, like, and share it with friends. Thank you. Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Future Tech and Future Tech Health podcasts. And I have Frank McGi. He's the COO of Quell Relief. Their motto appears to be reclaim your life from chronic pain. And the website is Quell, Quell, relief.com. So Frank, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Richard.
Yeah, so what inspired you to be involved with Quell Relief? Did the founders have pain, or, what was the motivation?
Yeah, so our company, Neurometrics, has been around for a number of years, and our background is diagnostic tests used for degenerative nerve disease, which overlapped with the chronic pain space. And we were looking at the fact that you've got a large number of people suffering from chronic pain. It's over 100 million Americans. And the current alternatives, 100 million Americans suffer from chronic pain.
Wow.
More than cancer, diabetes, and heart disease combined.
That's almost a third of all Americans. It's crazy.
Yeah. One of three. And if you look at, sort of the opioid epidemic, it's kind of not surprising. You have that many people suffering from chronic pain, and, for too long, the alternative's been just prescribed powerful drugs like opioids that, you start having a problem. But, we started looking at, the chronic pain issue because, the part of our diagnostics were around peripheral neuropathy and neuropathic pain. And we saw this huge untapped opportunity where a large group of people are suffering, and the current alternatives aren't great. Opioids have very obvious side effects, but even other commonly prescribed pain medications have a lot of side effects that patients don't like. And even if you look at OTC drugs, where if you're constantly using OTC medications, have issues like Tylenol or Aleve have potential for kidney and GI issues. So we just saw it as a big opportunity to apply technology to solve a large societal problem.
Yeah, it makes sense. My wife was in the hospital for a while, and they put her on OxyContin, and they said, "Oh, have a nice day," and they told her nothing about, the possibility of getting addicted and the side effects and all that, and it's terrible. It's like a deal with the devil. I started reading about it, and I was like, oh my God, we gotta make sure to taper her off of this and not too fast. And it was bad, but it worked out. But I know, and even like you said, NSAIDs, ibuprofen, aspirin, etc., they can cause you problems if you use them too much. I had a friend that had, terrible GI problems from that. He was taking them for a few months every day, and so it makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah, and we hear from chronic pain patients that they're really looking for non-medic or drug-free alternatives because they see the side effects. They've lived the side effects, so they're looking for ways to basically manage their pain so they can get back to living, but not have the side effects that may actually in some cases be worse than the disease itself.
So what does Quell do? How does it work?
Yes, it's a wearable neurostimulator. So the device, it's about the size of a credit card. So it's small, a little bit thicker than a credit card, and it's worn in a band on your calf. And what we're doing is stimulating the sensory nerves with high frequency electrical stimulation. And this triggers a response that blocks pain signals.
Why on your calf? Why not at the site of the pain?
Well, what we tried to do was design the product both to be comfortable to wear 24/7. We're FDA cleared even for use while sleeping, and many people have pain at night while they're sleeping. But the calf is just a very convenient place to stimulate sensory nerves. It's highly innervated, so you have a lot of nerves in that area. But if you think about wearing a device, wearing a band around your calf, it's relatively discreet and comfortable to wear all day long and potentially while sleeping. So it's just a really convenient place to stimulate nerves.
But if I have pain in my head or in my arm, if I wear it on my calf, will it still work? Or is it better to transfer it to my arm, or can I even do that?
Well, we find the device is most effective for lower extremities, so low back, leg, knee pain, and less effective on sort of upper extremity. We actually, suggest that for things like high migraines and headaches, that quell's not, probably not the best solution, and that's because we found from our data that we tend to be better in body pain than sort of headaches.
So what happens to the body? What's the mechanism of action that makes this work? And does it do anything to blood pressure or heart rate variability, or any other vitals?
Yeah, well, the mode of action is the research shows that electrical stimulation can trigger a response in the central nervous system. The mode of action is basically around activating the descending pain inhibition system. There's technologies that have been doing that for years, ranging from implantable spinal stimulators on one end of the spectrum that are, very effective since it's 24-hour stimulation, and all the way down to TENS devices. But what we've been able to do is, through applying wearable technology, develop a device that can be worn 24/7, can stimulate sensory nerves over a long period of time, and basically help deliver really excellent results for chronic pain.
Very cool. So you put it on, and then what will users experience once they wear it?
Well, hopefully pain relief. But the overall experience when you're wearing the device, the first time you use it, there's a calibration to determine the right level of stimulation based on factors like your nerve health, body mass, etc. But once it's properly calibrated, it's a buzzing sensation. We say it should be strong yet comfortable. It may take, for some people, feel results relatively quickly. Other people, particularly if they've had chronic pain for years, it may take a couple weeks before they start feeling the effect. But, you feel it. It's a buzzing sensation. People say they're glad to know and be able to feel that it's working. It should never be painful or cause like muscle spasms. So it should be, we say, strong but comfortable.
So you said so it's not instant relief. It can take a period of time for it to act, or is it a slow buildup of relief?
It depends on the individual. I mean, chronic pain is very complex. If you think about sort of the physiology of pain, it's complex, which is why there's not sort of one size fits all in terms of the solution. But particularly with people where there's a central sensitization, which if you've had chronic pain for years, often what's caused that initial pain or that initial issue, that's often resolved. But you have with central sensitization, your hypersensitivity to different sensation. So in that case, it can take several weeks to resolve. In other cases, again, the response is much quicker. And that's why, we really focus with new users to recommend that they, give it 3 to 4 weeks before they, of consistent use, to try it. We offer a money-back guarantee to make sure we're giving people an adequate period to try it. And, we made some upgrades to the app that we announced at CES this year, where we borrowed some techniques from gamification to really help engage that chronic pain patient in that first 30 days of usage, to make sure we're giving people
what I was thinking is that when people use this, they're very likely to be on pain meds. So, let's say they take, 2 pills of whatever twice a day, and they start using this. I would think there's fear from them. What do I do? Do I just take 1 pill a day and see if I get pain? It's weird. Now that I think about it, how do you ease someone into it? Because there's that fear of reducing their pain meds and being in pain, but they probably have to do that in order to see, okay, my pain is less and I only took 1 pill instead of 2. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. Well, based on our conversation with chronic pain patients and pain specialists, we do find that sort of a toolkit approach tends to work best. So it may include medication, it may include alternative therapies like physical therapy or acupuncture, and devices like Quell. I mean, generally people are finding over time, if you're getting positive response from Quell over time, the user or the patient figures out quickly that they're able to reduce the dosage on pain meds. So, I think it's an individual basis, but we do know that if folks are able to reduce their levels of medication, so if you're on X milligrams of gabapentin daily, if you can reduce the dosage, you can significantly reduce side effects. So that's even if you're not eliminating the medication, there's still benefit to just reducing the dosage.
What, are there any tips or tricks on how to do that, though? I mean, like when, are people just got to figure it out on their own? And, I know everyone's different, but there's got to be some wisdom on what to do.
Well, we would, in terms of reducing pain medication, we would always, suggest the patient consult with their physician. We can't really advise, not knowing the patient, not knowing their profile and the specific medication. So in that case, to some extent, I think patients know if they're getting relief, and if they're using some medications for breakthrough pain, for example, they may not need that in the future. But in terms of, if you're looking at a sort of a process to sort of wean off of medication, we would always recommend they talk to their physician.
Okay. Any other experiences people have had that, was interesting or unusual to you? Results they've had that surprised you?
I think, we get a lot of letters, and, if you look at our reviews, we hear a lot of people who've just said Quell's been sort of that life changer for them. They've been trying medications, they've been trying other procedures, and frankly, the chronic pain patients feel to some extent like they're abandoned. It's been called, the silent epidemic, because, if you have, many chronic conditions, it's pretty obvious. For pain, you look no different than anyone else. We've also heard that chronic pain patients are feeling stigmatized by the whole opioid epidemic, and it makes sense given all the stuff in the news, and that's driving some behavior that's things like not necessarily sharing fully with their physician. So what we're trying to do is be an advocate for the chronic pain patient, to make sure that that they know that they're being listened to, that their disease is real or the condition is real, and provide alternative treatments for them.
So what happens after someone uses this device for a while? Do they get does the effect deaden, or do they get diminishing returns, or does it keep working?
We people have been using Quell for many years now, so there shouldn't be a major diminishment of efficacy. It's possible that over time you may need to recalibrate, so you have a higher level of electrical stimulation. But we actually do a lot of things in the technology, the desensitization. So, for example, we dose an hour on, an hour off. We randomize the frequency around 80 hertz, which basically helps confuse the brain, so it doesn't lock in on one signal. So we do a lot of things to really minimize it, but there's always the option of recalibrating or adjusting the stimulation upwards if need be.
Have you seen that this device has secondary results that you didn't anticipate? Does it can it be used and tuned so that it helps you sleep? If it has the same frequency over and over and over to lull you into sleep, or can it be used for other things?
So our FDA indications all about chronic pain. We're the only OTC therapeutic device that's also pain device that's also approved for or FDA cleared for use while sleeping. We found sleep is a huge usage indication because pain significantly impacts people's sleep, and there's also a reverse impact of that in the fact that if you don't sleep well, it can actually exacerbate your sensation of pain. So we find, a lot of people they're buying it for pain, but they're saying they're sleeping better because their pain's not interrupting their sleep. And, we're able to measure actually impact on pain, also activity and gait. As a wearable device or a connected device, our device is tracking sleep. So it's tracking everything from, how long you were asleep, sleep interruptions. We even track things like repetitive leg movements. activity and gait. Gait, there's a high linkage between pain levels and gait abnormalities. So we try to track basically quality of life measures through the device to help provide feedback for the user over time.
Well, how does it work when the FDA clears you for chronic pain only? Are you allowed to even talk about off-label uses, or like how does it work legally?
We're not, we really talk about Quell as a pain relief device. So, we can talk about the fact that Quell, will help reduce your pain, so you don't have pain interfering with your sleep. That's, consistent with our labeling. But we would never talk about any kind of off-label usage. Just not allowed.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering. Okay. Well, what happens if you do discover there is another use of it? Do you have to go to the FDA and do like a separate study and try to get that use approved as well?
Yeah. So if we found there was another use case for Quell that was outside of chronic pain, we would need to gather data. And depending on whether there was another, the predicate device, it would either be a 510K or it might be a de novo application. But, if we wanted to use our technology for something other than pain, we would have to go back to the FDA for additional clearances.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious about that. I know you're not an attorney and it's not legal advice. I was just curious. Just curious to ask you. That's all.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. So what's next for the device? Like, what improvements or future devices are coming out? In the next year or so or a few years.
Well, one thing we're really excited about is we're bringing AI into the Quell device. That'll be launching later this year. And, over the past 4 years, we've collected data, millions of hours of data from Quell users. And we finally have a large enough data set that we're able to look and apply machine learning to that data set to improve the algorithm device, to make it smarter and actually make it more personalized to the individual pain sufferer. That will be rolling out later this year, and we're pretty excited about the additional personalization that'll bring.
So what's the typical response? Is it that someone's pain goes away completely, or does it goes away partially and they still have to rely on painkillers, or what's the range of possible outcomes you've seen?
Yeah, I think the typical user is saying that their pain is turned down to the level that it doesn't interfere with their life, and we hear repeatedly from chronic pain sufferers that I'd love to have it go away to zero, but frankly, if you can lower it to a volume where it's not getting in the way of traveling, it's not getting in the way of work, it's not getting in the way of going to my kid's soccer game, I can function. That's a huge win. And, that's really what we're striving for, is helping people reclaim their life.
So what's, kind of going backwards in this, but what are the effects of chronic pain on someone? What has science observed that it does to people? I'm sure it mentally wears them down, but, what else does it do?
Well, I mentioned sleep. There's a huge interplay between chronic pain and sleep. People who are in chronic pain don't sleep well. That not only exacerbates pain, but it also leads into other impacts. There's a high linkage between chronic pain and mood disorders. Things like depression and chronic pain, and also impact in terms of activity levels. So people are in pain, they're not as active, and you think for certain conditions. So, for example, a diabetic with chronic pain, one of the best things they could probably be doing is getting out and about. But if you're in pain, that may not seem like a good idea. So we find it sort of really does hit most all aspects of people's life, from mood, relationships, sleep, activity.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're not in a good mood and you're in pain, you're going to, you won't be friendly or nice to your family members or coworkers or friends, and I'm sure it hurts your relationships, and it probably causes depression after a while, thinking that this is your lot in life and you're going to be in pain forever. And I'm sure it affects everything.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're in pain all the time, you can imagine that it's going to affect all aspects of your life, both sort of physically and emotionally.
Okay. Well, very good. So you have your AI-assisted Quell product coming, but what do you see as the future of the pain industry? Where is it going? In addition to what you're doing.
We did a survey amongst 1,500 chronic pain sufferers in 2018. It was try to understand the impact of both the disease, the opioid epidemic, And what we heard is, loud and clear, is that people are looking for drug-free alternatives. And if you look at, particularly in the U.S., medication is still the primary modality for treating pain. So, for us, we're really focused on making people aware of the fact that, technology can be a really viable and effective solution for their chronic pain, and continuing to build awareness for that, as well as we gather more data, real-world evidence from the device, and we're able to, again, kind of build the science and help contribute to the science of chronic pain.
Okay. All right. Very good. So what's the best way for people to find out more about the device and get one for themselves?
Yeah, they could visit our website, which is quellrelief.com. That's QUELL relief, RELIEF.com. And on our website, we've got all of our research is there, all the information about our Quell technology. So we'd really encourage people to check it out.
All right. Well, very good. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You're listening to the Future Tech Health Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Until I reached age 40, I never realized the obvious, that we all have medical issues, or we at least have a family member or close relation that has, or will have them in the future. Medicine and biological systems are the final frontier. Until we've conquered death, figured out how life began, cured cancer, and understood our purpose in the universe, there's a heck of a lot to talk about when it comes to our health. Future Tech Health means I'll be covering futuristic topics that are actually already in clinical trials, or even starting to appear on shelves or by prescription, or available for your own use. We dive deep into stem cells, CRISPR-Cas9, the science of sleep, epigenetics, medical testing, cancer, ketogenic diets, stem cells, aging, regenerative medicine, and more. My goal for you, the listener, is to learn from these podcasts. You may very well learn something that may change the course of your life for the better, steer you towards a new career, or give you insight into addressing a serious medical problem. Remember, however, this podcast and its content is informational in nature only. No medical, tax, legal, financial, or psychological advice is being given. If you enjoyed the podcast, please listen, subscribe, like, and share it with friends. Thank you.